Okay, we are on. How's it going, guys? My name is Gaz. This is Full Time Devils. Sorry, I've got to keep my voice down. The lady's asleep upstairs. Anyway, how's it going? Welcome along. This is tomorrow's transfer news. Today, this is where we bring you what all the newspapers are talking about tomorrow, the night before. So you're a day ahead of the game. It's perfect. We do it every single weeknight at 11 p.m. Just going to press this here, try and get these comments back up so I can see what you're saying. There we go. It's always temperamental, that. Anyway, guys, so we've got quite a lot to talk about tonight, actually. The main thing being, of course, Nemanja Matic. There are loads of reports that basically suggest this one could be very close to happening. Of course, we had rumours for a bit, but nothing concrete. And it did seem like a weird one to me and to many other United fans that this one, that we were linked to him. It just seemed like one that would pass and we probably wouldn't actually go for him because, I don't know, he don't really improve our squad, does he? I don't think he improves in that position. But according to pretty much all the press tomorrow, it looks like Man United have gone for him for £35 million. £35 million. So I think we can safe to say we've been ripped off with that no matter what. But guys, I'll ask you a question now, because I say that he doesn't really improve our squad. Do you think Nemanja Matic is better than Michael Carrick is now? Do you think Nemanja Matic is better than Morgan Schneiderlin is now? Obviously, I know we don't have Morgan Schneiderlin anymore, but obviously what would be the point of replacing him with a player who's not as good as him? I don't think that he's he's better than those players. I really don't. I've just got into the comments now, by the way. Someone's saying 40 mil. Well, the Independent are saying 35 mil, but you never know, do you? It can always be a few out. Someone says yes. A lot of people saying that they do think he's better than Carrick, and they do think he's better than Schneiderlin. I personally disagree, especially since it seems like Chelsea are using that money on a young lad. I can't remember his name. Let me get him. A young lad who has a lot more going for him, and they've actually spent the exact amount that we've paid for Matic on him, and it's just like it feels like we're getting ripped off again. But trust Jose Mourinho. He knows what he's doing. He's got the best out of Matic before, of course. That's a good thing to look at. Remain positive. I just think that we could get better for that amount of money. That's simple. But because you know what I mean. I feel like he's a good squad player. He'd come and he'd be helpful for us in the squad. But I think we've got far too many of them. Players that I stick up for all the time, by the way, like players like Jesse Lingard. I don't think Jesse Lingard should be starting every week. He's a very good squad player. We've just got too many of them. Michael Carrick, I think, is now. Anyway, let's go move on anyway and talk about Morata, because Morata looked like it was one that was going to be wrapped up not quite a while ago, a couple of weeks ago before his wedding, and then it took a hold. It went on hold because of his wedding, and now it looks like it's back on. AS in Spain are reporting that there's €70 million on the table, and Morata's agreed terms with us, and we're just waiting for Real Madrid now. Real Madrid to accept it. Apparently Real Madrid want €80 million, but come on, Real. Come on, just 10 mil. It's nothing to you. It's like 50p. It's nothing to you. Rohit just has gone back to Matić, says Matić is no better than Carrick overall. I saw one comment there from Ronak there saying Matić no, Fabinho yes. We could get them both, mate. We could get them both. If that's the case, then I kind of get what the manager's doing there, because he's brought a squad player in to replace Carrick and then a first teamer. Just getting a couple more comments. Rohit says Bakayoko, that's the guy that Chelsea has spent the money on, innit? And Sam just says, why? Yeah, I know, mate, the Matic thing does seem unusual to me. Let's talk about Morata, though. I want to see what people think about 70 million for him. Reagan says, get Morata. Someone's keen. Right, I'm just waiting for a couple of comments on Morata. Ross says, Morata is an example of a rip-off, not Matic. Oh, right, okay. I don't know, mate. I feel like... I know what you're saying, but I feel like we're desperate for a striker. We really are desperate for a striker. And I feel like we should get someone who's proven himself, which he has. I don't think there's many betters on the market at the minute. Antoine Griezmann was the best one. He went, obviously, well, he's not going anywhere. So, we've got to go for the next best thing. But whereas we're talking about midfielders, we've already got fantastic midfielders, and if we're bringing anyone in, it's just going to be as a squad role, and what's the point in spending 35 million on a squad player? That's just my opinion anyway. Right, anyway, let's get on to another story. This is funny because it comes from like one source who's quoting another source who's quoting another source. So it's probably nonsense. So it comes from the MEN. And the MEN are reporting what Spanish outlet Diario Gol are saying. Diario Gol? Anyone? Does anyone know anything about them? Never heard of him. Anyway, they're basically talking about James Rodriguez because he has obviously been linked to us this summer. Nothing really concrete in it yet, though, just a lot of rumours. And apparently they're saying that the two clubs are yet to agree a fee, but we've agreed personal terms with James Rodriguez. Like I say, this is just one report from one Spanish newspaper who could be their answer to the Metro, you know what I mean? So let's not pay too much attention to it. But this is what they are saying anyway, that we've agreed personal terms with them, and Real Madrid are holding out for £61 million. He's a shirt seller, isn't he? So he's one of them. He really is one of them that you could see us spending all that money on. Whether he's worth it or not, I'm not sure. All I do know is that if he does come, then I will never ever shut up about the coolest football story that has ever happened to me in my life, and I'm going to prove that by saying it again now, and this is probably like the 20th time I've mentioned it on Full Time Devils. But James Rodriguez, the game where he scored that goal in the World Cup against Uruguay at the Maracanã, I was at that game. I was genuinely at that game at the Maracanã, and it was like the coolest moment of my life. It was genuinely like amazing. Much better than watching England, seriously. Anyway, enough about me talking nonsense about myself. Let's see what other people have to say. Wing says Morata 8 out of 10, Kane 0 out of 10. I think Harry Kane's a very good player, and I think he's built for the Premier League, and I think that he'd probably, I think, on a par with Morata really in terms of a transfer, maybe even a better one because he's proven in the league. But I reckon you'd have to spend a ridiculous amount of money to get Kane, genuinely. I don't think Daniel Levy would settle for less than 100 million. I'm not saying he's worth that, but we know what Tottenham are like, don't we? Southpaw says, so cool, mate. It is a pretty cool story, and it is. I'll admit that. I'm quite proud of that one. Right, we're getting on back onto Matić anyway. Kieran says, Matić is poor. I don't say he's poor, mate. Like I say, I think he'd come to United, he'd get a few games, he'd be alright. He'd be sort of like the same path that Morgan Schneiderlin was going on. I don't think he's any better than him, really. I think that, we've got class midfielders as it is. Under Herrera, Paul Pogba, man. That's your midfield pairing. That is your midfield pairing. It's got everything. And Footy Game saying, hoping this Matic story isn't true. Well, don't trust what I say, because I said Griezmann was a done deal before it wasn't. But based on the way that the press are reporting it, all of a sudden, and the fact that it's in all the newspapers, I'd suggest that this one looks like it is true. And 35 million, if we've offered that, if that offer has even been on the table, Chelsea will have snapped it up. And the fact that they've already seems like they've gone out and spent it. So it does seem like it is one that's true. I'm afraid. But then Ross comes in with a good point. He says Matic over Fellaini. Now, there's a very good point, mate, because I'm saying that we wouldn't be any good as a squad player and there's no point buying a squad player. But if you imagine that every game that Fellaini would have started, Matic would start instead, I think that he'd be a lot better. I still don't rate Fellaini, really. I really don't. I know that he's been good in the big games and he scored for us in big games, but I'm sorry. As a footballer, I have kind of higher expectations. I just can't deal with a centre midfielder who can't dribble, can't tackle. And you know what? For his size, he can't even head the ball sometimes. But anyway, sorry. I shouldn't slag him off too much. He's given us some of the very few good moments of the past few years, I think we've got to admit. I just saw a comment then, sorry I missed your name, just saying Ronaldo. Yeah, that one's not happening, mate. Interesting, isn't it? Those tax stories, they've all disappeared, haven't they? Interesting, that. I'm just getting a few more comments in. James says, Matic has no pace, we need speed. Pogba, and Matic are slow as fuck. Pogba's not slow. What? Herrera isn't slow. Just because they're slow on FIFA, mate, it doesn't mean they're slow in real life. I don't think they're slow players at all. Not for a centre midfielder. What do you want a centre midfielder who's like, Paul Scholes wasn't fast? I don't know. Some of the comments sometimes. Sorry, guys, but... Right, I'm going to get a couple more comments in anyway before I shoot off and head to Stoke. That's where I'm going, to Stoke. Someone says, great analysis of Fellaini, mate. It's like, I feel bad saying it, mate, because he seems like a nice bloke, and he's been good for us in the big games, hasn't he? But, yeah, Matić is better, I guess. So there's the argument for him. 35 million, though. Come on. Come on. Alex Evans says, Luke Shaw's future. Right, that's a good question to finish on. Luke Shaw's future. I think the fact that now 2 managers have had doubts about him suggests that it's not just a manager thing and they're sort of being harsh against the player, and maybe he just isn't working as hard as some other players are, or as these managers have experienced young players to have worked in the past. Same can be said for Memphis, of course. He's got the talent, and I think that some of the comments from Mourinho last year were out of order. The one where he said that he was only good because he was playing on the left flank where Mourinho was and he was shouting instructions. That's ludicrous. And you know what? I think Luke Shaw, when he's played, has been good, actually. I don't think he did enough to be banished for so long. So that suggests that it is a training issue and he's not working hard enough. And if he's not working hard enough, 2 managers think it, you're just not going to make it at Man United, mate. It's that simple. That simple. We'll see anyway, though, guys. I'd like to see him get games in press because I really do think he's got the talent. He just needs the hard work. That's my opinion. Might be completely wrong, and Mourinho might be being a total prick. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining me tonight on tomorrow's Transfer News Tonight. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 PM and every single weekday after that. Laters.